Okay, of course, instantly confused by settings in OBS, but we're here, we're ready to go. Let's get it on. Useful Japanese lesson for this week is Meiwaku Gaigokujin. Now, Gaigokujin is foreign person. It's the actually more polite version of Gaijin, which is the more common way to say it, which can be done insulting. I take all positive, negative phrases depending on how they're intended. So if it's intended negatively, it doesn't matter how polite the word is if it's said in a rude way intended to hurt your feelings. But yeah, you should know the difference technically, and then you can interpret the actual expression as it is presented to you. Meiwaku is a form of nuisance. So Meiwaku Gaigokujin is a nuisance foreigner. This shouldn't be a term, but I guess as far as terms go, it's actually not the rudest. This is Japan, so these still fairly polite sounding things are still insults. This came into the news. It was used in the news today because there's a lot of over-tourism. There's a lot of foreigners in Japan. There is a sort of meeting spot in Shibuya. There's a konbini that is like the dead center of Shibuya. This is where people go. They meet their friends there, and then they go off to bars and stuff. Or they drink there while talking to their friends, and then they go off to other places. This is where they make plans. Who knows? There are a lot of foreigners who hang out right out in front of this one konbini in Shibuya. Last week, a crowd was standing around in front, as I have just explained. A garbage truck. A garbage truck slows down and tries to turn. There's a whole bunch of people in the way, so it sort of honks gently. I don't know. It honks at them. And then, of course, the two foreign guys who are probably drunk have a really good idea. Since the giant garbage truck is going very slowly, it would be the perfect thing for us to climb on. So they climbed on it. This, of course, upsets Japanese people. You're not supposed to do this. It gets put on the news. This gets put on the news. And this is just to make foreigners look bad in the hopes that they will behave better. But I've met a lot of foreigners, and a lot of them make us look bad. And I'd really like them to stop. I think that might be the shortest version of this story ever, is stop embarrassing. You represent me in a way, because I'm a foreigner. So people see me and they see a foreigner. And then you behave badly and they look at me and go, oh, he therefore behaves that way as well. Have spent a big part of my time in Japan. I have spent a big part of my time in Japan trying to dispel some of the stereotypes, but I mean, I can really only do it one person at a time, and even then, I can honestly say I haven't been successful. So we had our scandal news from last week, where Nakai, a member of SMAP, had done something, paid a girl off 90 million yen to keep her quiet, and then had to retire essentially from show business altogether because he lost all his sponsors. He lost all his TV shows. I mean, there's nothing you can do anymore. He could be a streamer. He could go on YouTube. I actually bet if he just did something by himself, he would still be relatively successful. People would still follow him. He still has fans and whatnot. People will still support him just because he had so many fans. It's certainly not going to maintain the status of what he had before. And that might be too much of a step down. I always thought, when these guys get in trouble, why don't they just retire and just live a quiet life and not be bothered by anyone? He has millions and millions of dollars, so he doesn't have to work anymore. Oh, did something just ding? That is not the only scandal that's happening in Japan. It was probably just the biggest one. I'm interested in the fallout. So saying famous person abused their position and assaulted someone or did something sexual to someone, that is not actually that interesting inherently. There is the titillating aspect of it. I got stuck on the first part of that word maybe. The titillating aspect of it, but that actually, when you hear the story again and again and again, kind of loses any sort of impact. So I don't really find much interest in that. I actually find interest in the punishment, the results. Do they lose their position? Do they get their position back? This kind of rise and fall aspect of it. It's the hero's journey is really what I'm looking for in life. A comedian was reported to have grabbed a girl in 2015. So 10 years ago, this guy maybe grabbed a girl. I mean, we're going to go ahead and assume he did, because he probably did. He defends himself in a weird way. Yeah, there's a lot of weird bits about not knowing what happened. It was also a decade ago. He invited her to a hotel. I'm assuming they mean Love Hotel. She didn't want to go, so he grabbed her arm and pulled her. Now, We have no idea what that actually means. Did he pull her, down the street? Did he just grab her arm and pull her once? How bad did we have no context to really understand what actually happened. But he was denied and he tried to coerce her. That's maybe all you need to really take away from this. As a result of this singular action 10 years ago, because it came out and because it's coming out on the heels of this Nakai scandal where he lost all his advertisers, he has had every scene of his from a drama that's come out removed from the drama. So he actually made a show. He went through the effort. They filmed a show. He's in the show. And then they're like, we're going to go back. We're going to edit it again and take every bit with him out of it. There was a scandal of a guy. It was one of the Yakuza video games. And he was found to have done drugs. I think it was cocaine or stimulants or something. And then they took his scenes out. Oh, no, they didn't take his scenes out. Because it's digital, they swapped his face with some other guy. So they had some other actor come in, I assume did his lines again, and then just swapped his face. So he was removed from a video game digitally. I bet that was a very smooth process. But going back and re-editing a show, that is so much work. It's almost insane. But this is because now these, like the Fuji president, the president of Fuji TV stepped down. He retired based on the Nakai scandal. There's another scandal. It was a guy suing a magazine for defamation, but then he had to drop it and he hasn't been back on TV since. So now that there are multiple scandals, these other scandals coming out of the woodwork from the past are now having real world implications. It'll be interesting to see, like, have we hit sort of the initial wave of scandal punishments? And it looks like you can go back 10, 15 years and you still get the same punishment now as if you had just done it yesterday. Drank a bunch of water before I started. I really have to burp. Usually I get like coffee and stuff, like not coffee, but cough-y, COUGHY, coffee, or a sore throat or a rough throat after the second or third story. Now I feel like a big burp brewing. I don't want to burp mid. I generally have pretty good control over my burp function, so I can force it. I'm not going to do that. That's maybe not the best idea. I can tell you why I'm never going to get on like professional news television. I will never be an actual news anchor, probably because I'm too old. But I mean, there's a more realistic reason is I would stop and like burp midway through the show. All right, that's just extra. Let's just cut that. Two teens. And again, I think when I start a story with that, you're always like, this story is awesome. These are two young people who've made bad decisions. Love young people making bad decisions. I made lots of bad decisions. I've talked about previous episodes, some of the dumb stuff I did when I was a teen. I don't expect them to mature anytime soon. And yet, my experience with teens in Japan is they tend to be overall more mature. And maybe it's because they have to study so much. They don't actually get so much free time. I had tons of free time to mess around. And that is when my mind went off with my friends in flights of fancy and like, what's the dumbest thing we can do? One of the dumb things we could do was get eggs and throw them at a police station. In Japan, they have police boxes. It's not like a box. It's like a 2-3 person police station, mini police station for the community. So instead of having just one large central police station for a city or a prefecture or an area or something, they will have a big police station and then a lot of little ones. They'll have 3, 4, maybe 5 cops in them. My town has a police station and I think it's like 6 people tend to staff it. And that's for the whole city though. So it's actually very small still. But I could still go towards the train station. I bet I could be able to find a police station with like 2 guys who hang out in it most of the time. You're out, you're 15, you're 16 years old, you're with your friend, you want to like be stupid and impress each other, which is what's going on here. Like the dumber stuff you can do will impress your friends. You have some eggs. I don't know did they go buy eggs? This is another question of preparation. I, as a teenager doing dumb stuff, never went full in on the preparation phase. We never like pre-planned this. It was like always in the moment stuff. These guys had eggs. So they either went and bought eggs or someone got eggs from home. Either way, that level of preparation being increased makes it actually like a little worse. They get the eggs, they go to the police station. What are you going to do? You're going to throw the eggs at the police station. So the cops are sitting inside the police station. They hear something hitting the outside wall. They go out, they see broken eggs. They've egged the car and the outside of the police station. What does a police station have? It has police inside, yes. So maybe the police don't see you. It's very hard for them to prove. What else do they have? They have surveillance cameras. I mean, every single one has a camera facing the outside. Every single one has cameras probably inside as well. If any place is going to have cameras on it, is going to be a police station. So, of course, they have video footage of these kids doing it. They track them down pretty quickly. They are suspected in a similar situation where another police car got egged at some point in the past. I'm going to go ahead and say they did it. Last week, I was lamenting the lack of sexiness of the Yakuza stories. All the Yakuza stories I've had since I started Ninja News Japan, they've been bland, sort of low-level stuff. And so my information about Yakuza primarily has come from movies and media. So in the movies, they were always like international drug dealers. They were trafficking people. It was always like really big things, and they had massive amounts of money. The stories we get are them doing what I would consider honestly low-level crimes. 3 members of the Yakuza were arrested recently for breaking into a mobile store and stealing 31 smartphones.
LOL. Anyway, back to the Yakuza from eggs and egg prices.
That's the smooth transitions you get at Ninja News Japan. The segues here are perfect. You won't even notice them. We'll just be into the next story. Anyways, back to the Yakuza. But I think the reason this stuck out to me was stealing cell phones is not my image of what Yakuza should be doing. And it's because, again, all of my information comes from movies and video games where they're doing really big things. These guys breaking into a store, stealing, even 30 isn't enough. Like if it was 30,000, it was a truck, a trailer full of cell phones. That would be Yakuza level. Stealing 30, I'm like, I think I could steal 30 phones. I think I could break into a place and steal 30 phones. There have been 10 similar thefts. So now we're getting up in the 300s, but still, it would be like, if you're going to do petty theft, I guess each phone might be $1,000. Like the Galaxy phones and stuff, they're like $1,000. So I guess this could actually be quite technically a big crime. It just doesn't feel that way to me. Like they're not stealing gold. 10 similar thefts in 2 prefectures. So maybe these are all connected and they've stolen like 300 phones at $1,000. That's a fair sum of money. Still not Yakuza numbers in my mind. This is like petty crime still on the grand scale of what the Yakuza as a family organization should be doing. It's just not glamorous. That's really what I want. I want my Yakuza to be doing big glamorous crimes. Last week we had the Yakuza buy a private road and then cordon it off and then try to charge everyone for using the road. And then they got arrested, not for the attempted extortion of the people who live around this road. It was they were arrested for being Yakuza. Something that they're not Yakuza, but has the same feeling to me. Starbucks. Starbucks Japan is going to start location-based pricing, which I weirdly am not surprised that this is the kind of thing I would have assumed they had already in place. Do you remember it was like a year ago or 2 years ago, they were going to have the menus dynamic pricing. So if it was a peak time, your hamburger or whatever would cost more. And then if you went at like 2:00 in the morning, the hamburger would be cheaper. I'm surprised that didn't take off more. Because I know there were some machines in Japan. They were going to try some machines. We're going to do like spike pricing, like dynamic pricing, that kind of stuff. This is different in than what they're saying is if your Starbucks has like a prime location, the Starbucks is going to cost more in the store. That feels more Yakuza-like to me somehow. That feels like a large national network scheme that's going to bring in millions of dollars. That feels like the Yakuza, but it's Starbucks. I think maybe in my mind I need to switch. It's the Yakuza are doing like all this garbage crap stuff. My sentence just fell apart, so I'm just going to cut that part. From February 15th, 30% of the 1,991 stores will change prices. So not all of them. It's going to be with the ones in Tokyo, Osaka, that kind of stuff. They're going to be the downtown stores. They're going to increase their prices. If you go out to the countryside, so where I live, there's not actually a Starbucks out here. That's how small the town I live in is. We have a McDonald's. That's like a big point of pride. And my understanding is they're going to open a KFC. Ooh. You can see like how my tiny town's becoming a big city when we finally get a KFC. Service areas and airports are going to go up by 6%. So places where you're locked in, so you're at the airport, you can't really leave the airport. They're going to increase all their prices by 6%. If you're in a service area, so a place you've driven, there's no options. There's only so many places you can buy from in a single service area. They're going to increase their prices by 6%. Tokyo, Osaka, Fukuoka, and other major cities. The major city I work in is Nagoya, and they didn't mention that one. They're going to increase their prices by 4% in those locations. This is supposed to be for sustainable store management, but we know that Starbucks is already a massively profitable company, so that's not what this is about. This is just about seeing if they can gouge more money from people because they're locked into an airport or they work downtown and they don't have any other coffee options.
Everyone forgets Nagoya.
Everyone forgets Nagoya. Nagoya was voted the most boring city in Japan multiple years in a row. And I actually agree. But to me, the most boring city in Japan is why it's the best place to live in. The exciting cities have lots of stuff to do. But if you have to live there, it's always like Tokyo's always packed full of people. Osaka's very busy.
Man, there's stuff to do in Nagoya.
No, there is stuff to do in Nagoya. It's just its location and stuff is it's smaller and quieter, which is why it seems boring to outsiders. Like if people were going to come and do tourism, I would say, yeah, go to Tokyo, go to Osaka. If you want to live, you come live in Nagoya. Nagoya is a great place to live. I live in the suburb. Well, I live in a different prefecture, but I live in essentially a suburb of Nagoya, and it's awesome because I can get to Nagoya, and from Nagoya I can get anywhere. Like I can go to Tokyo in a day. I can do day trips all over Japan. Being centrally located, I think, is really good. And that is your message from Tourism Nagoya. Ninja News Japan, big fan of living in Nagoya, but don't come to visit. Keep your fucking tourist ass away from here. Was it Meiwaku? Don't be a Meiwaku Gaigokujin in Nagoya. Go to Tokyo and bug them. All right, I'm going to do the song again. That's probably all I'm going to cut to. There was a sinkhole in Saitama, and a truck didn't manage to get away from it, and it fell in, and the driver was in the truck, and he's been locked in there for at least 3 days. This actually story is a little dark.
To be honest, when I saw other foreigners, I was like, TF, is this foreigner?
No, I kind of feel the same way. In my town, my understanding is there's one other white person. And so, like, people honestly think that we must be friends because there's the one other white guy in the city. It's a very small city. They think that we must know each other. We must hang out and stuff. And I've seen him once at the liquor store, and I honestly never went back to that liquor store because he didn't seem like my type of guy. He literally walked up to me. This is really off-putting because I'm out in public, a very conservative person. He walked up and he was like, "What are you doing here?" Like this was his introduction of himself as a person to want to talk to me, like I was going to respond positively to that, which showed me that he was already socially inept. So I just ignored him completely and walked away. So what he saw was he made a statement towards someone and that person just turned around and walked off. What I saw was someone who doesn't know how to talk to other human beings, trying really hard to break down a social barrier and completely failing because my walls went up immediately. But enough social talk. Anyways, there's a sinkhole in Saitama. It was huge. Driving down the road, a truck actually fell into it and the driver was trapped in the truck. It came from a damaged sewer pipe ate away at the surrounding soil. So basically eroding underneath the road to the point where when a truck went over it, the road actually collapsed into this big hole. The driver's still in there. Now, this is actually a tough story because I followed it for days. Again, I wanted to see, do they pull him out? Do they get the truck out? What happens? Then as they're trying to dig away sort of the material, like this is taking a full day. They lose contact with him. So we don't know if he's actually still in the cab of the truck. They don't know if he's okay. Another sinkhole forms nearby. Then those two sinkholes actually join together and become a much larger sinkhole. At this point, they're actually like, this is day 2 now. They're actually saying maybe people need to evacuate their houses. We don't know how far this is going to go. They're trying to scope out the area. They're still trying to get this guy out of this sinkhole, but they can't bring heavy machinery into this area because they're actually unsure as if the ground underneath is actually stable or not. So you want to bring a big crane in and lift up the truck to pull it out, but you can't bring the big crane in because maybe it'll collapse the road under it because you don't actually know how big the sinkhole is. They tried to construct a slope to get down more smoothly into the ground to get them. That started filling up with water. 3 days later, they're still saying that everything's unstable. They're asking city residents in this area to not take baths or showers or do laundry, try to minimize all that so that they don't have water flowing through these pipes, which is actually, again, exasperating the situation. They're searching for more risks. This is actually like now they're actually more concerned about the people in the property around the sinkhole than the actual sinkhole they're doing in. 3 days after this happened, the news about the driver just stopped. So my assumption at this point is they never got him out, but they didn't actually want to report it, and it just kind of stopped altogether. But I really would like to know what happened. And now they're talking about like how much of this infrastructure do we have to rebuild to keep Saitama and the city safe? How many other areas are there like this in Japan has become a pretty significant question. So we had the sexy advice giver who was using a AI generated sexy female avatar to advertise his give you dating advice and investing advice practice. So he would do videos, and it was an AI girl, and she was super hot, and she was bouncing around and doing girl things that are attractive to men, and then say, if you want dating advice, send me money. And then you'd send them money. It would go to this guy. He would give you dating advice. The question was, is this fraud? Because you were paying for dating advice and getting it. It just wasn't coming from the source you thought you were getting it from. My actual feeling is the fraud is these guys who are giving this AI avatar money wanted to talk to the AI avatar and not this guy. They didn't really care about the advice. This was just their opportunity to talk to what they thought was a really hot girl. Rule 34 plus AI and anime is going to be the combination that destroys the earth. 2 men were arrested for generating sexy anime posters. So it seems like nothing is actually safe. I think that's for the next little while, AI is going to try to it's going to be prodding at different things and different scams and different copyright violations in this case, other light crimes to see how far it can go before it actually causes any real damage. I think it's going to cause damage sooner or later, and that's when actually something's going to come of it. But we're going to see a lot of little stories where someone employed AI to do a thing that they weren't supposed to do. They were generating posters for Evangelion, Yu-Gi-Oh, and other anime from about this period, which immediately gives away their time. That was actually something that I thought. It was like, as soon as I was like, those aren't modern anime. That's anime that I know, and I'm a really old person, so they must be pretty old. Turns out these guys were 36 and 40. They're both being arrested for copyright violation. One man made 10 million yen off his sexy anime AI generated posters, and another man made 5.7 million yen. We don't know if they were working together. This may have been just like a coincidence that these 2 guys were arrested.
36 is old now.
I'm sorry to have to tell you, if you're over 30, you're old. Now that I've hit my 50s, I understand death is looming, and I knew immediately. Okay, here's an interesting story. 30 is old. When I came to Japan, I was 28. I think I was 28 or 29.
Okay, dinosaur. WTF.
I am a dinosaur. I'm okay with it. I've accepted who I am and what I am at this point. And that's why I'm so confident in myself, and maybe why I haven't committed the crimes the other 50-year-olds have. But when I came to Japan, I was 29, and I was very attractive, and I dated a lot, and I had many different excursions and whatnot, and women were attracted to me. I can honestly say that with unbiased. The day I turned 30, it was like a pheromone went out, or a hormone or something, and everyone knew I was 50. The attention stopped dead. And I couldn't explain what happened. Like, I was dressing the same way as I had the week before. I was acting the same way I had the week before, but suddenly a week before it was really cool and sexy and charming. Now it was like creepy old man gross stuff. So yeah, 30 is the cusp. It's when you become old. I have maintained that youthful spirit. I do speak for myself.
I still pull.
I'm sure you do still pull. I think if I tried really hard, I could. It's just now I'm so old, I don't try. You can tell that since I wear the same sweater every single week in this episode, you can tell I'm not trying very hard on certain fronts. Anyways, yes, I'm sorry to have to tell you this. If you're over 30, you're old. You're almost dead. You might as well just give up. I'm not advocating for that kind of talk. All right. 5.7 million yen, the other man made as well. We don't know if these guys were working together. That's actually a very interesting aspect. The Cyber Patrol of Japan, who basically just goes on the internet and looks for crimes. They're like patrolling the internet. I mean, pretty good job, to be honest. Sitting on your computer all day looking for things that may be illegal. I mean, we're on the internet. There's a lot of illegal stuff on the internet. I think maybe the biggest thing to me was 10 million yen. A guy in 1 year made 10 million yen selling AI posters. If you had the desire for an AI poster, you could just go to an AI thing and just have it generate it yourself. Like, doesn't that seem like the better solution? Like, instead of paying that guy to do it, why don't I just go on AI and get AI to do it for me, probably for free or very little money? And then I could, you have to have like a good printer or whatnot.
Nah, that's more work.
Is it though? This is the internet. Like, AI is everywhere now. It's generating all this stupid stuff. If you want the stupid stuff, have it generated for you. I'm guessing maybe he had some kind of large printer to actually make a large poster. Maybe something like that. Maybe he worked at a print shop or something. I don't know, but there has to be a reason that they went to this guy instead of doing it themselves. But people are buying them. That to me is the most shocking thing. Like, people are buying shitty, weird generated AI art from anime that's like 40 years old. Since we're talking about old and cool, this is the perfect segue into this story. A 71-year-old man, he wanted to look cool. I mean, I still would like to be seen as cool. I would like people to think I'm cool. I think now when you hit my age, you're only cool if you do cool things. Like, it's not looks and appearance or attitude anymore. It's like, oh, he does cool stuff. He's a neat guy. That keeps you cool. The coolest I'm ever going to be is knowing that I'm not cool and not trying. The not trying is the element that keeps me the coolest. I'm not going to say cool. The coolest I can be is that I don't go out of my way to try to be cool, because my cool days are behind me. Also, I don't know if I was ever cool because I never had enough money. I think a big part of being cool is doing cool things, and doing cool things often costs a lot of money. So this 70-year-old man had the same thinking. He wants to be cool, and he goes to expensive sushi bars, and he would be like, hey, people in the expensive sushi bar, it's on me tonight. I'm picking up the tab. I'm buying for everybody. Raw fish all around, which sounds really great. Like, that's everyone in the place really appreciated. I mean, the coolest thing you can do is go into a bar and be like, this round's on me for everyone in the place. And everyone's going to like cheer and be really happy about it. Sometimes the sushi bar tab was 300,000 yen. For the average person in Japan, that's like a month's salary. So he's really dropping coin to look cool in these sushi bars. Between 2023 and 2024, he funded this by robbing 63 houses, and he made 9.3 million yen. So actually pretty good haul. So one of the things I talk about is like, it has to be worth it. And if you got 10 million yen in a year, like our poster boy from the previous story, like, that's not a bad salary. Like, that's really, really good in Japan if you're making that salary, 10 million yen. This guy targeted houses that were rural, so they were mostly farmers. And the idea is that the farmers would be out tending to their farms, their houses would be empty, he'd break into their house. Farmers are also the kind of people who would keep a certain amount of cash in, like actual cash in their house. So a couple times I've said, like, people have had 20, 30, 40 million yen stolen from their house. And my question is, why are you keeping that much actual physical money in your house? It's still a very old-fashioned Japanese thing to do. I think I spend all my money using my phone now. I don't think I actually carry any cash with me in any significant sum. I might carry 10,000 yen just in case for an emergency, but any normal purchase for me in a normal day is going to be through my phone. There's no money in my house. If you broke into my house, the most expensive thing you could steal, probably on this little shelf behind me right here. So you're not getting much of a haul from that. When he was arrested, he claimed his welfare and pension wasn't enough to keep him sort of in the lifestyle he desired, which was, to be cool and go into sushi places and buy sushi for everybody. He literally said to the police, the motivation I had to do this was because I wanted to be cool.